What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday to you. Hope it's going well. Mine is, because we got some Icarus gameplay today. Only I'm not playing because the beta weekend ended last weekend. I'm going to wait till next weekend for the next one. But we can watch some gameplay from last week. So where we left off, we were trying to get into the polar region. And we got in there for an all of, like, what, 60 seconds before we died from a blizzard. So this is attempt number 2 going on right now. So we just kind of basically fast forwarded to my next attempt. Got a new cabin. I'll show it to you here in a second. And then we'll make our way. We'll try to make our way to the polar region. What's up, Jimmy Jones? Almost said Jimmy Johns. Could use some Jimmy Johns right now. Morning, brother. Morning, Chris. Happy Saturday to you. Yeah. The Mammoth is no joke. We'll get to that later. All right. And Steve, what's up, Steve? Good morning to you. So what you're seeing right now is I'm just preparing my inventory to go to the polar region. It's no small thing to do. You really got to prepare. Even if you do prepare, sometimes it doesn't work out like last weekend. But I think what I've noticed is a pattern. Every time I go to the polar region, I last a little bit longer. So at least we're getting better and we're learning. For those of you who've never watched any Icarus gameplay, basically what this game is all about is you're a prospector, a space prospector. You went on a 4 light year journey to this planet called Icarus, which we're on right now. You live in a space station, but when you're ready to go down to the surface, you take a pod down to the surface. That already happened. And then your goal is to complete missions or mine what they call exotics, which are these minerals. So you can buy cool tech and upgrade your supplies because you basically start out with nothing, like caveman tools. And the reason that Icarus looks a lot like Earth is because it was terraformed, but only small parts of it were successful. Most of the planet was unsuccessful when it came to the terraforming. So later DLCs down the road, we'll get into the more alien biomes. Right now we're in the forest, but we're trying to make our way to the Arctic, which is why, you know, you may see trees and stuff, and deer and bears and wolves, but we have to wear a spacesuit because we're not acclimated to the climate, to the environment. Skip the shotgun, you need an RPG. Heck yeah. Maybe one day this will be implemented into the game. I think I'm just about ready to head out. But it's 6:13 in the game, PM. I don't want to go there in the middle of the night, so we'll end up sleeping through the night. And then we'll go in the morning. I think you can sleep between the hours of 6 and 7. 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. Yeah. Again, lessons learned from last time. I'm going to make sure I douse all my torches so if I die and I respawn here, I don't respawn in a heap of rubble. Or charcoal, I guess. Yeah, Space Bear Mace would be helpful as well. That'd be really cool if they added Mace to the game, to be honest. Don't think they ever will, but would be sweet. I've been maced several times in my life. It never feels good. Been tasered as well. I think I prefer the taser. Doesn't last as long. I guess unless you're being really rowdy and you just keep getting tased and tased and tased. But I recommend if that ever happens to you, where you just keep getting tased and tased by a cop, you need to comply because that cop does not know what he's doing. He should not be tasing you so many times, so just comply before he shoots you. What's up, Waco? Betting that Kev gets to the polar region before immediately dying. Yeah, someone has a good memory. We had the worst of luck last weekend. For those of you that didn't watch, we got to the polar region, but as we were going through the tundra, the area where the forest and the polar region meet, the Arctic or whatever, we encountered a blizzard that just started. So that's just the worst of luck, and we subsequently ended up dying not even 60 seconds later, I bet. So, again, the map is all blacked out. This is kind of a guessing game. Oh, there's a wolf over here. And a deer. I guess we survived it. That's good. So yeah, the map's all blacked out, so I don't really know exactly where I'm going to get to the polar region. I'm just mostly heading south, which I should be heading north because north is where the Mammoth is that we're trying to get. I guess I should mention that. Our ultimate mission for this beta weekend was to kill a Mammoth and take back one of its horns to the drop ship. Which is, again, the Mammoth is north, so I don't know why I'm going south. I guess just to explore more. But I'm glad I did, and you'll see why here in a little bit. People that get tased are the original plankers before planking was popular. That is true. Forced planking. I wonder what the in-game reason would be for stocking the planet with lethal predators. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think about it, every ecosystem needs a food chain, right? You have your consumers, you have your providers, predators. Otherwise, the whole ecosystem falls apart, does it not? Hey, Rough Rider Show. Long time no see. How's it going, bro? So yesterday I tried to get my paraglider back up in the air. Went to this park, about 20-minute drive from my house. Beautiful park. It's perfect. It's flat. It's open. Farmland surrounds everything. It's nowhere near downtown. And finally we got some good weather. Maybe 2-mile-an-hour wind, no gusts. It was so awesome that I got there at like 6 in the morning. It was so awesome that even hot air balloons were up in the sky, and that's always a good sign. Then you know the winds are great. But as soon as I got my motor warmed up and my wing laid out, I was about ready to hook up, and the maintenance guys at the park arrived, and they informed me that they no longer allow paragliders because I guess the guys that were there doing it before were idiotic. These idiots were flying during like baseball and soccer games, like during the games, which is stupid. So you had all these kids that were just mesmerized by the sport, just watching the guys fly around, and because they weren't paying attention to the game, balls were hitting them in the face and they were getting hurt and stuff, so they don't allow it there anymore. I was like, well, that just makes sense, you know. People ruin the sport for everybody. So now I got to find a new launching point before I can get back up in the sky. I got a few in mind, including a couple of smaller airports. Trying to get us some more cloud-looking content before it gets too cold, because yesterday morning, even though it was really nice out, it was still like high 40s, low 50s. It was still pretty chilly. Good morning, Cool Hand Luke. Cool Hand Peep. Pepe. Yeah, well, I mean, that's how Kamala Harris got into politics, is it not? It is. I know it is, because I did the research. Willie Brown, Governor Willie Brown, San Francisco, or not governor, mayor, got Kamala Harris into politics, because Kamala likes to play games with taking balls to the face. True story. Hey Chris, good morning. I'm looking forward to the full release. Yes, me too, man. These every other weekends are awesome, but man, it's just I catch myself just looking forward to them way too much. I'm really excited for next weekend when we get to go into the desert region. I've been really looking forward to that. I think that has the most diversity when it comes to, fauna. When it comes to animals, we got elephants and lions. I don't know if there's giraffes or not, but that'd be cool. Camels, maybe. It's probably not more diverse than the forest area, but I think the animals that do live there are probably more interesting. Yep, I feel the same way, Jeffrey. I'm definitely a PC gamer that uses an Xbox controller. Always been that way. No barking. And it was like the first thing I was telling the devs when I first discovered this game about a year ago. I was like, you guys gotta have controller support. And they're working on it. It's a work in progress. It's not anywhere near playable yet with controller. I'm hoping it gets there someday. Although I will say I adapted pretty quickly to using a keyboard and mouse, but I prefer controller. Yeah, Kamala is just an overall unlikable person. Like, she's unlikable because she was the first one to step out of the primary race for the Democrat Party. Like, she was purely an affirmative action hire when it comes to being vice president. We need a woman, and we need a whatever she is, Jamaican, whatever she claims to be. She's always changing it. But she is totally unlikable. Her personality is annoying. She smiles when it's inappropriate. She's a yes person, just trying to please everybody. And a total fraud and hypocrite. And again, yes, she slept her way into politics. You might not like that fact, but the fact is she did. Look into it. Congratulations, our first woman vice president is a whore. How important are the auditory cues in Icarus? Can you hunt what you hear? Yes, they're very important. When you hear a wolf growl, you definitely want to be on the lookout. If you hear a bear and you're not paying attention, you'll probably end up dying. Sometimes it's too late when you hear a bear. You might be right on top of it because animals do sleep in this game and you can basically step right on top of them. I've done that a couple times. Yep, like I said, totally unlikable person, guys. I know, right? That's one of those should we impeach Biden or should we not? Because he is the worst. But is he really? Because I'm pretty sure Kamala would be worse. But at this point, we're just so screwed, it doesn't even matter. Both of them are garbage, flaming garbage piles of train wreck. That's what they are. So I think that's the only way to really describe them. Like, it's gonna get bad. Like, our economy and our country is already down the tubes. It's gotta get so much worse. In a year, we won't even recognize what country we have left. I guarantee it. We're on this terrible path. You guys been keeping an eye on, like, the supply chains and the ports in LA and how everything's backed up, and then we got inflation, and they got them trying to spend $3.5 trillion. Like, and they think that's not gonna hurt inflation. And we're screwed. I mean, all we can do is just laugh because that's all we got left is our sense of humor. They've taken away our hope. Yeah, Pelosi. I'm sorry, Pelosi, Sanders. If you support someone who's literally made a living off the taxpayers, like, you should question everything about what you believe. Like, it should not be okay for someone to never have a private sector job in their life. Always live off government paycheck as a quote-unquote public servant when they're not, and become millionaires. Like, millionaires that don't even abide by their own rules. We want higher taxes for the rich. Well, you're rich, and somehow you guys keep using loopholes to not pay taxes. You guys heard about, who was it? It was Biden, that's right. Biden was the one caught recently who's $500,000 behind on his taxes. And it's unbelievable how anybody can like these people. It's the world we live in. Being in my position as a content creator, I've got to go back and forth with quite a few people online and talk to people, get emails from people, and I will say there's intelligent people out there that know what's going on. A lot of you guys, obviously, but there are also a lot of, like, a scary number of just naive and straight up dumb people. It's insane. It's really scary. For example, those guys that were doing the paragliding at this park while kids were trying to play their soccer games. When I got there at 6 in the morning, when I already looked at the park schedule to make sure there were no games, like, I feel like that's common sense. You don't fly around when there's kids playing games nearby. Like, people can just be so stupid, and I feel like these are the type of people that vote for people like Nancy or Sanders, or maybe they're just cheating. You know, their whole districts are so corrupt. I mean, we know that's how Biden became president, right? I mean, I actually watched the entire Maricopa County audit results or whatever, and holy cow, there's some major questions that need to be answered. But even if you negate all that, throw all that aside, the fact that you had big tech and big media trying to silence the Hunter Biden laptop story, which has now been confirmed by Politico to be true, and they were trying to claim during the election that, it was Russian disinformation. Like, that right there is enough to say, yeah, our election was fraudulent. Like, it was a straight up propaganda campaign to put Biden in office. So I've never been to this area before, but it is really nice. I think this is where we're going to end up going and building our cabin for next weekend. Not this area specifically, but we're going to go a little bit more south. There's a really nice looking area up there, down there. I've learned that the further away you travel from your drop pod, the harder the animals get, the higher the level they are. Let me catch up on some of these chats here. This channel finally got monetization permission. I was actually kind of shocked. It took about a few weeks to do it. And I was like, there's no way they're going to approve this channel for, monetization, but they did. Not every video that I have posted that was able to be monetized, but most of them. And they will soon take away our laughter, yep. They can try. Get the National Guard in there to unload container ships. Yeah, did you hear about... We shouldn't be shocked by this, but you know how Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, was fired. He resigned because of his sexual assault allegations and stuff. He was a rapist. His replacement, some unelected bitch bitch, ended up, she's already worse than he is. So many healthcare professionals like nurses have quit or resigned because of the vaccine mandates, and they already had like trouble with shortages and nursing staff and stuff, and now it's even worse under this lady. And so she's like, well, we'll just have the National Guard come in and replace them. Like, I guess what else are you gonna do? Everyone else can't work because of you. It's like slowly they're turning the state into a police state, or I guess even worse, a military occupied state. I mean, taking the playbook right from Biden, to they'll have gates up around the Capitol building, you know, big fences. This is the place where I want to set up shop for next weekend. Got all these awesome waterfalls and stuff. And we're right by the desert, which is an unexpected, and you also got a couple caves. An unexpected result of our trip here. We were looking for the North Pole. We ended up in the Sierra Desert, Death Valley. But that's okay, at least we know where it is, and we found this really awesome location. Yeah, somebody was talking on Dinesh D'Souza the other day about the Chile parallelism between what happened to Venezuela and what our country is doing now. Yes, I've watched a couple videos about that too. I mean, that's where socialism leads, and people don't understand that, and it can get even worse. Like, socialism is the pathway to authoritarianism. You grant so much power to the state. What do you expect is going to happen? Oh, here's your free healthcare. Here's your free stimulus checks. Now do what we say, or we're going to take those things away from you. It's how you control the populace, and the fact that people don't understand that is just embarrassing. I mean, even UBI, Universal Basic Income, people will say, well, we need Universal Basic Income because of, you know, automation and stuff. Well, you don't make a problem worse with a bigger problem, you know. Yeah, automation and authoritarianism, I'm sure that will be a great mix. Coming up on the desert region here. I figured since I found it, I might as well check it out. What's up, Hellfire? Welcome to the show. What's up, Sodium? So now we're gonna go looking for the polar region. I took off my space clothes because you don't need them, I guess, until you get there. So we're gonna start losing some frames here. But I end up fixing it, so just bear with it for a couple minutes, and then once we get into the polar region, I back out and I adjust the settings. I don't know why there's less stuff in the polar region, yet it really is heavy on your frames per second. It's crazy. Yes, Hellfire is from Michigan, right? If I'm correct. I actually like Michigan. Yeah, there's some parts of it you can do without, but there's some parts you can do without in basically every state. Like Cleveland for Ohio. I hate Cleveland.
Well, you made it to the Arctic. Biologists
Cleveland
brought a
does not
titan
rock.
back to life up here. Now they need you to kill it, so they can find out what the hell exotics are doing to them. Scientists. Gotta love them.
I just feel like Cleveland is always depressing. It's always rainy. There was a really funny old viral video from several years back that some guys did like a quick, you know, tourism commercial for Cleveland. It was hilarious. They were just spouting off all the things that's wrong with Cleveland. I think I'm about to fix the FPS issue here in a second. Yeah, again, I don't know why it gets so bad right here. It's nuts. Cleveland or Akron? I would say Cleveland, to be honest. I don't go to Akron too often. I try not to go to Cleveland too often. Really, to be honest, I'm just not a fan of big cities. I'm not. Like, in my old age, I've learned to appreciate the small town life. Like, I understand where Dave Chappelle was coming from. He lives in a small town outside of Cincinnati, I think. I grew up in a small town, didn't care for it, hated it, wanted to get out in the real world, experienced the real world when I was in the Navy, and I'm like, nope, well, I want to go back to small town. It's easier life, man. More open space to really... It's, you know, it's kind of funny how the quote-unquote hicks, rednecks, whatever that live in the country, them country boys, are the real environmentalists. Like, they enjoy the outdoors and stuff, where you have these hipsters in the inner city, these pro-environmentalists that just love the concrete buildings in their Shapehaw town. If you watch South Park, where they revitalize these crappy downtown areas into these hipster hangout spots. It's so ironic. Yeah, practice makes perfect with this bow, man. I don't like, you can craft spears and use spears, but I never use them because I feel like I'm more accurate with the bow. Oh, don't worry, we'll get into some caves here as we go along. You guys been keeping an eye on what's been happening with Australia. If anybody here is from Australia, you have to let us know how your life is. Specifically, I think it's East Australia, like Melbourne, that's been going through just absolute hell with their lockdowns. And have you seen their concentration camps? And I say that's exactly what they are, dude. Like, these Australians are put in these COVID camps, and there's videos of them from the inside taking on their phones of people just hanging out on their little COVID balconies of their little dormitories that they're in, waiting for the food trucks to come by so they can eat, like dogs. It's freaking insane. And I guess one of their local leaders was saying that they plan on having some of these COVID camps completed by 2024. Like, really? We're looking this far out in the future to have these camps completed? Like, what's your real agenda here? It's nuts, dude. That will never happen here thanks to the Second Amendment. I'm telling you guys. Hang on to your guns. I will never step foot in a camp, ever. It's like this one thing the Jews said after the Holocaust. Like, they said that they should have never gotten on those trains, you know? Because by then it was too late. You'll never get me on a bus or in a car or in a freaking van on my way to a camp. A Kobe camp, dude. Not gonna happen. I've been keeping an eye on Australia the last few weeks. I want to do a video on it. Just how insane it is. There's this one video of these protesters totally like trampling the police there during a protest, and as a former cop, I'm totally fine with it. Like, I do not feel bad for any of those cops in Australia that are enforcing these authoritarian mandates and rules and stuff. Like, if you're gonna be a sheep in wolf's clothing, if you're gonna wear that badge and you're gonna allow this stuff to happen and you're gonna enforce it, then you deserve to get trampled, to be honest. Like, you're the enemy of freedom. It's about time we call things for what they are. Yeah, I saw that Canadian pastor who was arrested. It's not uncommon in Canada. They don't have the kind of freedoms we have here. Like, they don't have free speech. You can go to jail for calling a biological man who identifies as a woman a man. Like, it's insane. Like, there's been a lot of people from the UK and stuff writing emails saying, we never understood why Americans love guns so much, but now we're starting to get it. I mean, it does sound crazy. Like, people would ask you, and they have in the past, they asked me, like, well, why do you care so much about guns? And it has felt ridiculous to say, well, because, you know, you got to protect yourself from an authoritarian state when the state gets too much power. And you always felt like, yeah, it's ridiculous to say it, but we're living it now, dude. It's not ridiculous anymore, which is sad. Like, for me personally, it was starting to become a pretty big wake-up call back when you had the, I think it's still going on, I haven't looked into it for a while, the Ukrainian revolution against the Putin and the Russian government. Remember back a few years back, like 2015, when there were those videos taken of those Ukrainians trying to defend themselves with thin plastic shield, or thin, like, metal shields, and they were just being sniped left and right on the street by these pro-Russian police snipers. Like, that was a big wake up. Like, they were defenseless. All they had were freaking shields, and they were just getting picked off. For me, that was like, yeah, I'll stick with my guns, thanks. If I get cornered, I at least want it to be a fair fight. But according to Biden, it won't do any good because they have nukes. Do you guys remember him saying that a few months back? Like, we have the nukes. Like, did you really just threaten the American people, you piece of shit? Hairy here, literally. Oh god, that's a whole wolf pack. I forgot about that. Run, unless you feel like taking on 7 more wolves after what you just went through. I'm already bleeding. Heck yeah, man, Hellfire. The lawyer wife and I already talk about this quite a bit. Like, she's hardcore, dude. She's like, If they try to force any vaccination into us, people are going down. If they try to take us to any camps, people are going down. If they try to take our property, which includes our dogs, people are going down. Like, I remember when the whole the World Economic Forum and their Great Reset agenda went public, and they had this video that said in 30 years you will own nothing and you'll be happy or something like that. And I was like, the first thing I thought of was, well, I own several guns and I own 2 dogs. And if you're trying to say I won't own those things in the future, you're wrong. Because of the fact that I do own those things, you will not be taking them from me. Like I said, guys, in a year, we're not even going to recognize our country on the rate that things are going right now. Strap in. Sorry to hear that, Nico. It's a really unfortunate position that a lot of good people are being put in. But I also think it's equally important that we do what we can to stand up for what's right. I don't think we should just cave. Be like, okay, you win this one. Like, you can't convince me that what's happening all across the world right now isn't by design. Like, there's a reason for all this happening, and it's not COVID. They're just using that as an excuse. So yeah, we lasted a little bit longer in the polar region this time. I would say a lot longer. We were in there for several minutes. And I learned that polar bears are not to be trifled with. That polar bear took like 4 or 5 shots and didn't even flinch. He was only, what, a level 22? So now we've transitioned and fast forwarded to my next attempt. Again, we're just loading up on the supplies we need. I learned to bring in a couple more additional items, like herbalism, some herbs that I've concocted to make like my health bar in the bottom left-hand corner a little bit bigger. I'm going to be bringing more of a diversity with food to get more of a health buff. So as long as each time you go into a region and you fail, if you're learning from that failure, I think you're playing the game right, I think. Warrior Stem, did you hear about China limiting kids to about 3 hours a week on video games? I didn't hear that was official, but that doesn't surprise me because I did a part of a video a couple months back about how China is doing that social credit program. At the time, I don't think it was I think at the time it was kind of like in a beta. They were just testing it out, but it wouldn't surprise me if that is now a real thing for them. And believe it or not, even here in the United States, I've heard of many people, even on the right, that are like okay with things like that, with the government telling you, you know, you can't play video games so much. Like, it really surprised me. Tucker Carlson, who I agree with a lot, said a couple weeks ago that he thinks China is doing some things right, and one of those things is the video game restriction things. Now, I mean, while it's a rational decision to say we should limit video game time for kids and people, it's not a logical thing because, again, you're granting more power to the government, which kind of irritated me about Tucker. It's like, you should be smarter than to know. You should be smarter than to say things like that. And I thought we were kind of past the whole video games are bad for you thing. I mean, they can be. It's kind of crazy that kids have actually died playing video games because they just do nothing else and their bodies just deteriorate and die. I mean, this one kid died after like 48 hours straight of playing video games somehow. Now maybe he had a seizure or something, I don't know. But so obviously video games can be bad for you, but at the same time, like, you can learn a lot and you can develop some pretty good skills from playing video games. I mean, they basically make you play video games now if you want to be a drone operator for the military. Like, I think the whole reason I was so good when I was testing to become a fighter pilot for the Navy was I was so good with a joystick and throttle is because I played a lot of joystick and throttle games growing up in the 90s. I got a neighbor visiting me. Maybe he just wants some help. A couple, you know, just desperate shots there at the end. I wasn't sure if he was dead or not, so just shooting. Yeah, I don't think we should be scared about the future. Just, I mean, it'd be totally logical for people to be scared if you actually are paying attention. You see what's coming on all levels: economics, you know, domestically, militarily, law enforcement. Like it, pandemics. There's reasons to be afraid, but I mean, I think it's wiser to just be prepared. And like, for example, I live in a small town, and that wasn't by mistake. Like I was saying earlier, I don't like the big city, but what's nice about living in a small town is that you can get to know your neighbors. You have farmers markets. We now have a garden. My neighbors have a chicken coop. So when the supplies do end up getting worse, and they will, and grocery store shelves end up getting emptier, and they will, we're not going to starve to death because, again, we have guns. And although I love animals so much, I don't think I would ever want to hunt them. I know I could if I had to. My brother-in-law loves to hunt. He's like always off trying to hunt bears and stuff, and he always comes back empty-handed. Of course, I got my Patriot supply, so we're good there. Even though ammo's hard to come by, got some of that. I mean, I think preppers give the whole being prepared thing a bad name. It's not, and I would tell my students this. I'm like, when we'd go over our chapters on natural disasters, I'd be like, listen, guys. And that was the first time I ever took down a bear with one shot with this hunting rifle. So it's nice to know that can actually happen. I'd be like, listen, guys, you're not a prepper. You're not ridiculous if you keep extra supplies in your house in case of emergency. Like, the grid is a man-made system, and what do we know about men? They're fallible. The things they make are fallible. Everyone's had a power outage, a blackout, and those are only going to get worse too, by the way. China's already going through major power outages. Some factories in China are working by candlelight at the moment. If you think that's not going to affect us, you're wrong. Especially as we transition to more greener energy. It's just really smart to have some things set aside. Like the other weekend, I was telling you guys that a school bus hit like a power line or a power pole and knocked out our power for a good night. And I just got into my emergency stock and grabbed out this LED lantern, and we were good. Like, it's taking that idea of you should always have batteries and a flashlight, you know, on standby in your house for such situations. It's just taking that idea and then expanding it a little bit. Get some extra storage, food storage, you know. Maybe a little propane hot plate or something. You don't have to go dig a hole in your backyard and build a bunker. Like, what was that one movie called? It was actually a really good movie. The Alien one with the guy from Roseanne. I can't think of it now, but it was actually a pretty good movie. Where this retired Air Force dude who knows because of his former job that there's aliens out there, he ends up building this bunker, and then the aliens attack, and you don't know it throughout the entire movie, but a couple of his neighbors come in. He ends up being this psychotic, possessive serial killer type. Cloverfield, that's it. Was it like Cloverfield Drive or something like that? It was like the second one in that series, I think. Yeah, it was a pretty good movie. Like, you don't have to be that guy. Although, if you can afford it, all power to you. Have you guys seen, there's some rich people out there who have invested and bought like a timeshare or something in one of these underground bunker apartment complexes, like these cities where you should look into it. It's actually, like, I would never spend my money on that, but I mean, they're fascinating to learn about. I never watched the show Doomsday Bunkers, but I think it's just because I'm lazy. I think it would be fascinating to see how far people are willing to go. And you can't be mad at them for it. They just believe in being prepared. There's nothing really wrong with that unless you take it to an extreme that you're starting to annoy your family, I guess. No, I get it, Hellfire, yeah. I mean, if you're not at least worried for the future of your country, whatever country that may be, especially after the whole pandemic and the authoritarian way our leaders are handling it, if you're not at least worried or concerned about the future, then you're not paying attention. That, or you're so scared about the pandemic that you're more than willing to surrender your freedoms for security, and that's just pathetic, to be honest. It's almost as if a lot, and it's crazy, even in the space community, how many people are just completely oblivious of history. Like, do they not realize that never in history before America have people govern themselves? Like the Great American Experiment, have they never heard that phrase? And how easily it is to lose it? They think, oh, we can do it better. Okay, but you're not going to be doing it better by resorting to the same old failed ideals and political beliefs of socialism or communism. Like, if your ideal of a utopia involves giving the government more power over you, you don't know what you're fucking talking about. Basically, like, all these sayings, people just either choose to ignore or they never heard. Like, they've never heard that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, these things are true for a reason. They're sayings for a reason. And I think people are learning that the hard way these days with, like, in other countries like the UK and Australia. You know, here in the United States, over 2020, in that summer of love, people were like, or before that, people were like, just let the police handle our protection. And everyone who have a brain cell knows, no, I'm the first line of defense, or at least I'm the last line of defense, I guess. The police and their response time, and even as a former cop, I can tell you this, and you guys know this, the police response time isn't the greatest. You should always be willing to protect yourself. Try to build this makeshift shelter before we lose our life again like that one time. Yeah, I taught at a private school, so I didn't have to deal with the Common Core thing, and now it's even worse. They have CRT, and I just found out, even in my small hometown that I grew up in, where my sister and my nieces still live, like, even they now are being accused of teaching CRT, and it's just nuts. Like, I never thought it would spread to such a small town in Ohio like that. Like, private school or homeschool is the way to go, I guess. Or just don't have kids like me. then if you don't have kids, then you have to deal with the other problem that Elon likes to talk about, the whole depopulation issue. We'll have nobody to take care of the elderly in like 30 years. Yeah, the education is an issue. What was it? A few weeks back, word broke out that I think it was Oregon or Washington. I want to say it was Oregon is no longer requiring math and like reading or whatever for graduation from high school in the name of equity, because apparently too many minorities were not doing good in those subjects. I'm like, talk about that is equity. Talk about lowering the standards. And the fact that people are okay with this, and I try to make this known in the space community by flashing that article on the screen, and it's just nuts to me how nobody appears to care. Like, I just saw the other day that a lot of names in the space community were all up in arms about Blue Origin and their alleged, I don't know, sexual harassment claims that's going on in their company. And so you had these big space names that were calling Blue Origin out on it, which they should. But these same people are willing to turn a blind eye to all these other issues that are going on that just don't agree with their politics. Like I told you guys, if Elon does stuff that I don't agree with, I'll call him out on it. But at the same time, he's entitled to his own opinion. Like, Elon kisses China's ass from time to time, and I get it. He's a business guy. He does business in China. At the same time, I don't think it's acceptable to just ignore their crimes against humanity like Mark Cuban does. Mark Cuban's come out to be a real bitch lately. But you'll never find that with these other space community names. Like, oh, so they're not requiring math anymore in Oregon high school. They won't say shit about it because it's not in line with their agenda. And that's the whole reason why I started implementing politics into my content. Is I don't care if people hate me. I just need to wake some people up. And a lot of people have, like, it's actually kind of it's kind of reassuring that even though obviously I've lost viewers and subscribers, which I knew would happen, and I'm totally fine with it. I'm not willing to, sell my soul to the devil just for money and fame. Fuck that. It's actually really positive and really reassuring that a lot of people have actually reached out and said, okay, you make more sense than I originally thought. Like, that's why we need to speak out and not be afraid to challenge the narrative. Red pill some people in the words of the Matrix, wake some people up. Otherwise, we're just going to continue on this path of bullshit, and we're just going to make things worse for everything, including this space industry. Oh, there's another polar bear up there. Yay for me. I'm not looking to make the same mistake as last time. There's another thing that made the news recently with education. I can't remember what it was, though. Like, it was just as equally as shocking as they're no longer making people learn math in Oregon. It was something along those lines, but it was different. And I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I'll try to think of it. That's going to bug me. I think it had something to do with they were actually segregating. Maybe that was it. I don't know if it was a university or whatever, but they were actually segregating black students to give them their own places on campus, like trying to make it come off as like they're being pro-minority, pro-black, and when really what they're doing is they're doing segregation. I mean, that's what it is on its face. It's insane to me. We are literally going, like, the quote-unquote progressives are literally taking us backwards, which I guess is to be expected because we know what kind of people they are. Yeah, I try not to call progressives or the woke or, you know, you name it, whatever label you want to put on social justice warriors, snowflakes. I don't try to label them as liberals because classical liberals I don't have a problem with. Like actual classical Democrats, like say Tulsi Gabbard, like totally fine, man. Like at least they're still grounded in reality. But the rest of them, they have totally sold their souls to the whole woke movement. And it's obvious. And if you can't see it, then your own biases are just getting in the way. But I think there are very few classical liberals or Democrats still calling themselves that today. I think a lot of them have gone more to the independent or even right. Because, like I was saying, even just that party in general, the Democrat Party in general, has backed socialism. It has. Like, that is their platform now. You know, under Obama, they would criticize anyone who dared call them socialists. These days, you know, if you call them Marxists, they don't even care because they know it's true. Their real colors have shown. And again, I don't think any classical liberals are Marxist, but I do think the Democrat Party now is Marxist. I mean, just look at the $3.5 trillion bill they're trying to pass, and thank God there's some classical liberals still in the party that are trying to stand up against it. And to be clear, I have a problem with a lot of the... I mean, I used to call them rhinos, but I think they're just Republicans now in office. Like, the usual suspects, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. Like, these fuckers, they're just like, they're no different than Nancy Pelosi, just doing what they can to stay in power. They've been in politics for so long, it's embarrassing that they're leading the party. Of course, they'll get some things from time to time, but they'll get some things right from time to time, but they have to. Otherwise, you know, if anything, the right has shown the leadership that we will kick you out. We'll put in a Trump if you don't at least give us what we want from time to time. I don't think it's good enough. I think these people should be fired. I don't like Lindsey Graham. I don't like Mitch McConnell. I think they should have gone a long time ago. Tell you who I'm really liking right now, though, is Ron DeSantis, man. That guy knows what freedom is. Dude's a patriot. I'm really liking Rand Paul a lot too lately. He is every one of these hearings that he's been on lately, he has just been a cutthroat, dude. I'm loving that guy. He just went against, like, I don't know, the director of the HS or something. Just totally lambasted him over the whole COVID thing. It was awesome. Like, here's a doctor who's also in politics, like, just totally going at this guy who's not a doctor, who's not a scientist, hasn't read up on the studies like the Israeli study like Rand Paul has, and yet has the nerve to say, we and our scientists have looked at the studies, but wait, you just admitted that you haven't looked into this study yet. You don't. It's just it's embarrassing to watch these people like fall apart under Rand Paul. Like, the dude is just killing it. I honestly believe if, like, the Trump administration was still in office Fauci would be in big trouble right now, like because Rand Paul recommended an investigation into Dr. Fauci for lying under oath to the DOJ. I think if we were under a more honest administration that didn't see Fauci as a deity, that Fauci would be in big trouble right now. I mean, you got to admit, you noticed that as soon as the Biden administration took office, that's when we started seeing a huge crackdown on like free speech, and we've seen a lot more censorship. Like, it's like as soon as Trump was out of office, the left was no longer scared to, they were no longer even hesitant to start showing their true colors. Because then even Trump was banned from social media. Now, God help us if during the midterms it doesn't go the way it should. I honestly think if the midterms, like I honestly think we might have passed our last exit already. After seeing just all the things that were wrong with the last election, you had censorship by big tech and the media. You had these massive mail-in voting ballots. That wolf just disappeared. Awesome. This massive mail-in voting scheme, and I call it that because for some reason everyone on the left and the right were in agreement just a couple years prior that mail-in voting was not as secure as in-person voting, and yet they went around state legislators to, and the Constitution to allow such a massive mail-in voting scheme. You had Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook putting drop boxes in these heavily blue and purple areas. Plus all the irregularities that we've seen from the Maricopa County audit. Like here's an example. This one blew my mind. They had these signature boxes on their voting envelopes, these mail-in voting envelopes. They had these signature boxes that were blank. Nobody signed them. Right there makes the vote invalid. You can't count it. But a lot of them were stamped, approved. But not only that, the way they were stamped, the stamp was actually underneath part of the signature box. So the paper was approved before the entire thing was even printed, apparently. It's so nuts. I'll probably cover, I mean, I watched the entire 3.5 hour presentation from the results of that audit. And I'll probably be covering some of it in next week's video, along with probably Australia as well. And it's just, if you don't think something smells like shit with the election, if you didn't already, there's definitely some fecal matter in the air for sure. Like there's no reasonable explanation. And even the presenters during this audit were like, maybe there's an explanation for this that I just can't think of. And the audience was laughing because everyone knows that's bullshit. There's no logical reason for some of the things that they were telling us. That was just one example that I just gave you. I thought this was a pretty cool little area we just went through. That's why I was taking some screenshots. I'm always on the lookout for a good thumbnail. Yeah, I miss Trey Gowdy a little bit. He was a damn good prosecutor. He knew what questions to ask. He was very knowledgeable. You kind of felt sorry for him though, because he even admitted like the Hill was the place where good investigations go to die, because like the government, being typical bureaucratic government, can't do anything. They don't get things done, and things they do get done take so long it's ridiculous. Which is another reason why I just can't understand why people are so pro-government and big government. The bigger government gets, and it always gets bigger, it doesn't get smaller. You give the government power, it's not going to relinquish it, as we've already seen. I mean, it's not more it can't be more obvious than 15 days to flatten the curve, and look where we're at now. Not only America, but you have Australia straight up saying we're not going back to normal. Who was it? An Australian premier just said, I think that's how you pronounce it, just said to the unvaccinated, like comply because your lives are never going back to normal. Like, and then I think like the next day she was, she had to resign for corruption charges, I think, if I got that story accurate. The lawyer wife was telling me about that part, I think yesterday. But the latest episode of What We Do in the Shadows came out, so I wasn't really listening. If you watch that show, you need to watch last night's episode. It was freaking hilarious, dude. It was probably one of the best episodes they had. It's on FX or Hulu. I can't really talk too much about the vaccine or COVID because then I'll get another strike and my channel will be pulled down. But it's funny how you have, like, you know, the stereotypical hippies that don't even wear deodorant. They only like to eat at Whole Foods, and they read every label. It's got to be organic. And, you know, that's fine. I get that. Teach their own. But you have a lot of these kind of people that are more than willing to get a substance put in their body, like injected in their body, but they don't even know the ingredients. Like that's a funny worldview you have there. You guys hear about Joe Rogan's epic rant the other day? It went viral. One of you guys sent me the video clip of the montage or whatever that somebody put together. It was really good. Joe Rogan has definitely woken up over the past year or so. Like I'm agreeing with him a lot more now than I was agreeing with him a couple years ago. Like, for some reason, I remember this part. This is, for some reason, the game wouldn't let me pull the trigger when I wanted to. It was a little bit delayed there. Yeah, that's another thing. Good call on that, Jimmy Johns. I'm going to call you Jimmy Johns. So, Vermont is now being sued because they are allowing non-citizens to vote in their elections. Like, who did not see this coming, really? I think all of us called it, right? The reason that we had 15,000 immigrants from Haiti or whatever come into our country, and they did, they bust them into our country. A lot of them who tested positive for COVID weren't given the vaccine, weren't mandated to get the vaccine. And we have apparently 60,000 more coming to our border. Yeah, I don't know if you heard about that. But we all knew that the reason the left wants, like, they don't care about human rights. If they cared about human rights, then they'd do something about the illegal immigration, because the huge problem with illegal immigration is you have coyotes, you have cartels running the border, you have human trafficking. They don't give a shit about any of that. Trump built cages and put kids in cages. No, Obama built those cages, okay? Trump actually dismantled them, and now Joe Biden has cages for these kids. And even actual liberals, Democrats, are now, like, protesting against Biden because of his treatment of the illegals. But that's all done by his hand. Oh yeah, I forgot about this part. So I ended up dropping my knife here when I was fighting these wolves, and I can't pick it back up, which sucks because that is my stainless steel knife, and you have to have this knife in order to skin the woolly mammoth. You can't just skin it with a normal rock knife. So I'm trying my best to pick it up, and it's just not letting me. So eventually I end up letting it go and just hoping that somehow I figure out a way to skin the woolly mammoth if I end up killing it. So yeah, we have all these illegals being bussed into red states and stuff. Like, I know Virginia is purple now because of just, even from the Obama era, just them dropping immigrants into the area. Like Virginia was heavily red, and now you have very dark blue spots in it, enough to obviously have the state vote for Biden, apparently. But we all saw that the reason they were doing this is so they can give amnesty to these illegals and then give them the right to vote. And if you talk to anyone who actually came into the country legally, did the right thing, didn't cut the line, and that's exactly what coming into the country illegally is. I mean, obviously, if you have a legit reason you're being persecuted and you need to escape, like, that's a different story. But a lot of these people are not. If you talk to or if you listen to the Border Patrol agents, and I've had some of them email me before, they're saying these Haitians and stuff, a lot of them were coming in from Chile. They were just dropping they've worked in Chile for a couple years, the last couple years. They dropped off their freaking Chilean ID cards there on the Rio, on the bank, before coming into the United States, because they knew with those cards they wouldn't be able to seek amnesty. So most of these people coming in are not being persecuted. They're just trying to cut the line. And then the Biden administration is busing them into the United States, and like Vermont, they're gonna try to give them the right to vote. And before you know it, America's in a much worse spot than we already are. Because these people aren't being told to assimilate. They're not assimilating. They're just bringing their own beliefs that ended up running their country into the ground here, and that's what you're going to get. It's like you have those Californians leaving California for Texas. They move to Austin or whatever, keep their same far left ideals, and then end up ruining those parts of the state. Like, Florida is becoming the new Texas now, because Cubans who lived under communism know what communism looks like and want nothing to do with it, which is also why Joe Biden was turning around Cuban refugees who were fleeing communism. They would freaking float on tires to Florida, and then the Biden administration was sending them back. They weren't allowing them in. No, Joe Rogan is agreeing with you more these days. Yeah. That's fine. Like, I have respect for people like Joe Rogan who are surrounded by people who not only disagree with him but hate him. I don't know if you know this, but like the employees of Spotify, that the platform Joe Rogan moved to the other year, like, hate Joe Rogan. Like, they're always trying to get him canceled or censored. And Joe Rogan isn't flinching, dude. He's just every time they come after him, he's just emerging even stronger. I have respect for people like that, like people that won't cave. It annoys me so much when people are accused by those that disagree with them, and they just cave. They buckle under their own ideals and beliefs, and then apologize. Like, who was it? The quarterback for the Saints. What was his name? I'm not a big sports guy anymore, so he's a popular athlete, though. I can't think of his name at the moment. The quarterback for the Saints ended up apologizing because he didn't agree with kneeling for the American flag or something along those lines. And then I just lost so much respect for him. Like, dude, you buckled, you caved. You're showing your coward colors. Like, I'm all about talking to people and learning the other side of things, which is why I read all different kinds of news. But it's an entirely different thing to cave under pressure just because other people are being mean to you. Hopefully I've demonstrated that doesn't work on me. Like, the more people come after me on my channel, the harder I'll hit back. Like, you're not gonna try to threaten me into silence or anything like that. I won't stand for it. if you disagree with me, that's totally cool. If you're gonna be a bitch and you're gonna complain about it and you're gonna whine and say I'm unsubscribing, I give a fuck. Fucking leave, dude. For real. Like, I don't want to hear your complaining. It's embarrassing. I feel bad for you. You're weak. Just move on. Like, I have more respect for the guys that don't disagree, or that don't agree with me, and then just go. They just unsubscribe and they don't have to put it in the comment section, I'm leaving you. Like, I give a fuck. You're not gonna be the first one. You won't be the last. Just go, little bitch. Drew Brees, that was his name. That is his name. Yeah. That's weak sauce, man. You shouldn't back down when people get in your face like that. I remember many years ago when Tim Tebow was getting a lot of flack for like kneeling and praying in the end zone when he was kicking ass, I guess. I don't know. I haven't watched sports. I stopped watching sports after I got out of the military, or when I got in the military. It just seemed like kiddie games to me after that. But I remember Tim Tebow was getting a lot of shit for doing that. And I just remember thinking, I think this guy's like a straight up stud, dude. He's brave. He's getting all this shit, and yet he's not backing down. And I have respect for people like that on the other side as well. Like, not as much respect because I think they're wrong, but I still respect their drive. Okay, you think communism's a good idea? If you researched it, at least in an honest way, which I don't know how you could be a communist if you research communism in an honest way, but if you're a communist and you absolutely believe that's the way to go, and you know, you're not going to back down because you absolutely convince yourself. Do I think you're brainwashed? I am, but I kind of respect you that at least you know what you believe. You know, it's these people that don't do the research, don't know what the hell they're talking about when you challenge them on it, and then they won't listen to facts, like, and then they expect you to change. That's the worst. People don't know what they're talking about, and yet they want you to change your worldview. So I watched I think it was the episode 5 or 6, the last part of the Netflix series on Inspiration 4 last night. I had to actually fast forward through a few parts of it because it was just cringy, dude. Like the Michelle Obama call, when the guys got the call from Michelle Obama, the first transvestite. She's a man, dude. She's a man. He's a she. She's a he. She. I just couldn't bear it, dude. Like, Michelle Obama, she was like the Kamala Harris of the Obama administration. What's really funny, what the lawyer wife and I found to be really ironic, is that Michelle Obama and the Obamas are like involved with Netflix now. They're producers or something, and it was like a circle jerk. Oh, we're gonna praise Michelle Obama on our Netflix show. Yeah. You go ahead and pat yourself on the back for that. I did cancel Netflix for several months after that whole Cuties thing. You guys remember that disgusting pedophilia movie? The little kids doing the sexualized dancing stuff, I guess. Oh, man. Yeah, I was one of those millions of people that canceled their Netflix subscription with that. Then I think we got it back like 4 months or 5 months later, and I opted for the cheapest one. can't remember why I ended up getting it back. I know it's because we have several people on the account and they wanted to watch their shows. I was like, fine, but we're not getting the 4K version or whatever it is. We're getting the standard version, SD version. Yeah, even Russell Brand. Yeah, you're right. Footlong Don. Footlong Don. Russell Brand, dude. Yeah, I've enjoyed watching his stuff now for a couple years, but lately he is like his eyes are opening up. It's interesting to watch, especially people like Russell Brand, who just 10 years ago were definitely on the far side of the spectrum. But he is an honest person, right? He's an honest person. He's willing to ask the honest questions and not just blow off the answers. And still, I don't agree with a lot of the things he says, but who knows? Maybe at this rate, maybe in 6 months, we'll agree on everything. But the fact that he's an honest person, that's why I can listen to him. He has his convictions, and I respect that. He's a little bit more socialist than I like, and I don't think he would define that in the same way, but it is what it is. You want to... I mean, he's very anti-big government, very anti-military industrial complex, and very I think, above all, anti-corporation. And I've changed in a way in that I used to be kind of hawkish back in my military days. I was for the Patriot Act, but people change, man. Like... people will definitely change when you start seeing people abuse those things. And I'm definitely not as pro corporation now. I used to believe the whole, Walmart's good. They give you cheaper stuff. Amazon's awesome. It's convenience, the free market. And I still believe that stuff. At the same time, I hate monopolies. Like, I hate monopolies now. One of the key turning points in that whole discussion is when Amazon had the servers of Parler shut down. And I'm not like a huge fan of Parler. I was probably on there for a whole month or so before it got shut down. But it doesn't matter. The fact that you had all the big tech come after Parler for the January 6th thing, when even investigations that revealed it wasn't Parler, it was Facebook. Parler was actually reporting things to the FBI. It was Facebook where a lot of these people were like organizing, and even then it wasn't like, it was just organizing to get to the rally. It wasn't organizing to go stampede the Capitol. It's all bullshit. But when they had Parler server shut down, that's when I went from just kind of loathing Jeff Bezos to not only do I have no respect for the guy, I actually very much dislike him. Like, on the verge of hate. I try not to hate anybody, but he's a piece of shit. Fuck you, Jeff Bezos. Like, for real. I don't want to say that on my Space Eccentric channel just because it's not polite, but really, fuck you, Jeff Bezos. You're a piece of shit. Giving all these millions to Marxists like Van Jones, and under the guise of it's a good cause, when Van Jones is going to use it to worsen the black community. His fucking moronic ideas. Jeff is a... Like, it's funny how Jeff is hated by, like, everybody on all sides of the aisles, but on both sides of the aisle. But I think a lot of people on the far side of the aisle don't like him just for the fact he's a billionaire, and that's not why you should not like him. All right, he provides jobs to people, right? And that's something the left just can't wrap their head around. Like, yeah, billionaires have a lot of money. They have a lot of the money, okay? They earned it. Obviously, the free market spoke. They pay back by giving to charities. I think Jeff only does it, though, because it makes him seem less like an evil piece of shit. They create a lot of jobs, and that money ends up going into our pockets. But when you start going from successful CEO to a monopoly, like Jeff has, that's the reason that you should have a problem with him. When you start having your competition shut down. Look how big this map is. We are still trying to get to the Mammoth. I should have kept track of the time, but we've been streaming now for almost an hour and a half. We went to the Arctic like twice, so we've probably been traveling for at least 45 minutes trying to get to this Mammoth. Map is huge, and I love it. Crowder said that anyone fighting Joe Rogan would be in a world of hairy little problems. Yeah, it's funny because I just read an article that this Chank guy from Young Turks, like, he's an embarrassment. He's just so dumb. He just made the news, I think yesterday or the day before, that he said that he could take Joe Rogan and beat him because he's bigger than Joe Rogan. Yeah, you're fatter than Joe Rogan. Congratulations. Doesn't mean you're stronger or faster, or you doesn't mean you know how to fight, which I can tell since you're a soy boy that you don't know how to fight. Joe Rogan has a very lethal kick, dude. I don't know. That's like what Joe Rogan's known for, is his kick. Like, it's so funny when you hear these things. Joe Biden telling Trump he'd like to beat him behind the bleachers. Like, good luck with that, Joe Biden. Freaking trip going up the stairs, douchebag. Like, some people's self-awareness is embarrassing. Anyone that says that they could kick anyone's ass is just full of shit. Like, anyone that can actually kick someone's ass would never say it. You don't say it. You just do it when when the opportunity presents itself. That's what real men do. Anybody who claims to be a badass or knows how to fight someone is not a real man. Shut the fuck up and do it. I keep tunneling out these caves as we go along because whenever I don't want to be caught in a storm, I want to have a quick way to get into a safe space if I need to. Tesla. Yeah, I'm rooting for Tesla. I got stock in Tesla. I got one stock in Tesla. So, our numbers came out 241,300 delivered, beating Wall Street expectations by at least 20,000. That's awesome. I'm waiting for my Cybertruck, bro. I'm having the feeling, though, between me and you guys that I'm not going to be getting my Cybertruck next year. I honestly, I'm in the spot where I'm believing that the supply lines and they're just going to get so terrible over the next year or two. We're just not going to be able to get them. I don't know. Maybe maybe Tesla can work miracles like SpaceX did under Musk's leadership and like make their own supply lines. But I don't know if it's going to be enough, man. Like, I mean, you can say all you want that chip shortages are gonna get better, or maybe they are getting better. I don't see that happening yet, but that's just one thing. Like, that's not even like the big issue anymore. Food's a really big issue. Power is a really big issue, and that's only gonna get worse. Like I told you guys before that the lawyer wife works in energy, so she knows all about this stuff, even with Tesla. She's cutthroat in the industry, and she's fairly new to it. She's only been in the industry part for a couple years, but she's already like made a name for herself. And the things we talk about would make the hair on the back of your neck stand up for real. Like, think generators, guys. You might want to start investing in one. We don't have one personally, but it's something we're looking into. Rolling blackouts will be a thing probably within the next year, at least at the rate we're going. Anyone who's even politically knowledgeable about anything will have to admit to you that Joe Biden is not a friend of energy, right? I mean, look at all the prices of energy since he's been in office. I mean, if the left wanted to be serious about energy, they would be all about opening up nuclear plants. Even Elon says so. Like, Elon's pro-nuclear, which I found out after I already came out and said that I'm pro-nuclear. I never heard Elon talk about nuclear before the other week. But I think it's a smart way to go. It's a proven technology. It works. It's much safer than it's safer than it's ever been. Chernobyl's not going to happen. That was just a freaking fluke with terrible technology. And it's clean, dude. We should be looking into making more nuclear. If we want to transition to wind and solar, that's cool, man. I get it. I think it's getting better. Not even 10 years ago, that technology was embarrassingly inefficient. But in the meantime, if we're serious about climate change or whatever, if we were really serious about it, it wasn't just deployed for a political agenda to make the left more money and bankrupt those that won't comply, then they would definitely be looking into building more nuclear. Like I said, China's been building a new plant every month, but they're already experiencing like blackouts by the region, and they have basically like a social credit score per region depending on their consumption. Again, a lot of their factories are working by candlelight now. That is on its way here. But again, it's not something to be afraid of, it's just something to prepare for. Yes, the polar region has a lot of wolves. It doesn't have a lot in it, but it definitely has a lot of wolves. And they're good at cutting you. One thing I've recommended to the developers is that when you get cut, your suit should also leak oxygen, so you have to patch your suit. I'm all about that realism, baby. The driftwood, yeah. I'm not sure where it came from. I mean, we can speculate. Maybe it came from rising tides or a storm that blew it in there. Maybe the flood. So, same reason they find fossils of whales on Mount Everest. That's how the driftwood got there. We're approaching an hour. I'm just trying to transverse this freaking region, dude. We're not even there yet. Can't even see the mammoth yet. And this region that we've covered is probably like 15% of the entire map, if that. Again, I'm looking forward to going into the desert region next weekend. I can't wait to see how big that is. So I'm out of arrows. My bow is gone because it broke and I don't have a way to repair it. So right now I'm just trying to save my ammo. What's up, Juan from Argentina? Whenever I think of Argentina, I think of this report I had to do in elementary school. I was probably like 4th grade or something. We had to pick a state, or capital S state. We had to pick a country to do a report on, and I picked Argentina. Not sure why, I just thought I'd do it. The only thing I really know about Argentina is where Pablo Escobar's wife, I don't know if she still lives there, but that's where they moved to because the United States wouldn't accept her, and rightfully so. She wasn't exactly a refugee. Pull! That's my favorite part of this whole episode, this whole video, is that part right there. Pull, boom, wolf dead. This game is not on Xbox. They want to make it available on console eventually, but Dean Hall says he doesn't like Microsoft and Sony. He thinks they're turds because of the way they treat small developers. But he's definitely open to the idea of making this available probably on the next generation consoles. I don't even think like a regular Xbox One could handle this game. I got a pretty decent, pretty new graphics card. I got a 2080 Ti, and like if I'm recording the video, I can't have it on ultra settings. If I play it without recording, I can have it on all the best settings. But as we saw earlier, I kind of dropped some frames, and I have this setting probably on all high. I think I have it on all high. I think maybe 1 or 2 settings I have on medium. There might be a delay in the stream. Well, my connection on YouTube is showing green. It's excellent. There shouldn't be a delay. There might be a little delay between the recording of the video and the gameplay. Again, that probably just goes back to, it's a beta. They're still tweaking it, refining it, making it as smooth as they can. And again, Dean gave his developers like a week off between beta weekend 2 and this beta weekend because he was working them so hard. So we should have some more bug fixes and a smoother playthrough for next weekend. If you see that little dot in the center of the screen there on the horizon, that's the Mammoth. That's where we're trying to get to. I would love to own some suppressors. I don't want to have to deal with setting up a trust and then, you know, waiting 9 months. I figure if it ever comes back, if it ever becomes bad enough where you need a suppressor, then you just make your own. I wouldn't do that. Wink, wink. I have no reason, no need to own one. I like my guns loud. For the record, it's very illegal to make your own suppressors. I should probably say that because I'm sure there are some tattletales just waiting to report. But if it's the apocalypse, then who's gonna stop you? You know. All right, so right now we are setting up just a little home base here, like a staging area before I go fight this mammoth. I have no idea how long it's gonna take, and if I'm bleeding out and I'm exposed to the elements, I want a safe space to get to. So one thing I did learn from this venture into the polar region is that from now on, this is probably the biggest I'll ever need to make a shelter. I probably could get away with just a 1 square floor shelter. This is a 2 square, 1 by 2. I could probably just get by with a 1 by 1. Should free up some inventory for the next time. This is also the first time I ever made bread, which you see there in the bottom row. Bread will give you a good health buff. If you mix it with the fish and the steak, it's even better for you. Like a surf and turf sandwich. Dang, I need to move to Texas then. Freaking Ohio's for commies, apparently. There, thank you very much, Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine's actually like a family friend from back in the day. I can't stand the guy now. He's shown his true colors during this whole pandemic thing. Like, Ohio was one of the first states to implement a mask mandate, and I was like one of the first people I know that actually speak out against it, because again, this state was one of the first. And I got so much flack for doing that. Like, that's another reason why I don't regret leaving Twitter. Twatter is that I sent like a tweet to Mike DeWine. I guess I could have sent him an email. I didn't think about it. It's not the way you do things anymore, right? I was like, screw you and your mask mandates. Basically what was the gist of my tweet. And what I hate about Twitter is that people that don't even have anything to do with it will just jump into the conversation, and from there it will just escalate. Before you know it, I'm being called anti-mask, even though at the time I was like, you won't wear a mask, wear a mask. I'm just anti-mandates. I was wearing my mask at the time. I'm not anymore. Fuck that. You're not going to tell me what to do anymore, you little bitches. You've shown your true colors, you authoritarian jackasses. Too fat to jump, apparently. There we go. Yeah, well, the bad thing about living in Texas these days is that you have this influx from, like we were saying earlier, the influx from all the California exoduses, all the people that left California for Texas. Before you know it, Texas will end up being a blue state, which would be weird. You have like Brokeback Mountain gay boys, gay cowboys in Texas and stuff. Hipster cowboys in Texas eventually. Florida is becoming the new Texas, man. The LW and I actually, and my brother and his family actually, recently considered, and I think considered is even a strong word, but we're like, yeah, we could move to Florida. I wouldn't mind it. Just have to make sure all my family comes with me. Ohio's not that bad yet. Like, once we get DeWine out of there and we get a real conservative in office, Ohio should be good. We've never really had too much of a problem. I was actually pretty shocked that DeWine decided to go all authoritative and do the power grab with the mask mandate thing. But if it gets bad enough, for sure, we'll be heading to Florida. Love Texas, though. They're nice people there. Been to Texas a few times. I think 4 times in total. Been to Boca Chica twice. Been to Lackland Air Force Base. My little brother's boot camp graduation. I've been to Austin to visit my other brother when he was doing an internship there. Nice people there. You know why they're nice? It's because everyone has a gun. No one will be mean to you. That's something that these freaking anti-gun cities don't understand. Guns make people very respectful. Which is why you have high crime in Chicago and DC. They ain't scared. They ain't scared of nobody because nobody got no guns. Well, I don't think I'd really care for Austin if I went back there now. When I went to Austin, I was in college. Like, I actually think I had my 21st birthday in Austin, I think. So it was a good time, but I'm sure if I went back there now, I'd be like, these people are idiots. I never was a partier, and now I definitely don't like to party. I don't drink. Maybe I'll have a drink if I'm like on the beach on vacation. But I would definitely not have a good time if I was to go out to the bars in Austin or any city for that matter. It's not who I am. I've never done drugs in my life. I've never even smoked a cigarette in my life. But here's the thing, like, I've said this before. I'm always open to new information, new ideas, hearing what people have to say, even if I don't agree with them. Which is why I hate censorship so much. It's like, I don't want you to censor anybody, whether I agree with them or not, because I want to hear what people have to say. Maybe I can learn something, or maybe it can just reinforce what I already believe. That's something that those who are pro-censorship don't understand. And there are a lot of people who wouldn't consider themselves pro-censorship who are pro-censorship. Like, Elon Musk likes to say, cancel culture, and everyone loves Elon Musk, so all of his fanboys will say, yeah, screw cancel culture, but then they'll be the first ones to celebrate when someone that they disagree with gets banned from Twitter. It's freaking ridiculous. But I did some research on hallucinogenics, and I'm at the point now after my research, and I've learned that they're being used in like Mexico and South America to, I think even Canada, to like treat PTSD from with like SEALs. SEALs actually have nonprofits that send them down there to treat PTSD, and they put them on hallucinogenics, and it works. So like, I am now at the point where I'm open. I wouldn't mind trying them sometime. I asked the lawyer, I'm like, hey, you want to try some shrooms? She's like, no. I'm like, oh, I don't even know where to get them. I mean, I still don't know where I stand on the whole legalizing thing. I haven't looked into it that much, but I do now feel like there's a place for certain drugs. Obviously not fentanyl in the way it's being mass distributed in the United States right now, thanks to our open borders. It's ridiculous. I think they just captured some at the border that had enough. They captured enough fentanyl at the border the other day that had enough to kill, I think it was 50 million people. Ridiculous. I know. There isn't much vegetation around the Mammoth, and he just seems to be pacing back and forth. So I'm using the opportunity to take some screenshots for potential thumbnails. I hope when the game actually releases, they kind of allow mammoths or animals like it to roam bigger areas. I think they just did it this way to make, like, they made the mammoths stay in this little plot, so it would force us to explore the entire polar region, because just over the hill behind me, behind the Mammoth, is another forest biome, a second forest biome. And we'll kind of jump in there. Obviously, we can't get into it because it's been blocked. We're not allowed to explore that forest biome, but we're allowed to get to the skirts of it. So we'll do that here in a little bit. It just shows you how massive this entire map is. Down to 21 rifle rounds left. We probably already, well, 21 plus 6 or something around there. So we have about 27 rifle rounds left. We already probably dumped at least 10 into him. Now he's not even flinching when I hit him, so I'm not even sure at this point if they're actually doing any damage to him. I'm actually shocked he's not dead by now. To also keep an eye on that polar bear behind me. I'm trying to taunt him to move. I'm not sure if he's glitching or not, because he's not making any noise or anything when I hit him with this rifle from here. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. There you go. Poor dog, he scared himself. PPOP got caught on one of my camera cords and he was about to pull all of my tech off the desk. You're okay, Mama. Shotgun wakes him up. If a polar bear will kill you in one hit, I'm pretty sure this thing will trample you in one stomp. That's why I'm trying not to get too close to him. 'Cause I didn't save a spawn point on that bed, so if we die, we're gonna end up spawning back at the cabin. This is a close one. The reason I didn't set the spawn point back at our little base back here is because even if I were to die and then spawn in that bed, I would have no inventory. I'd have no weapons. I'd have no cloak or clothing on me, so I'd just freeze to death anyway. That's why I'm taking this kind of cautiously. I really want to kill this thing without dying. At the same time, I'm kind of having thoughts that he might be a little glitchy. I've already pumped dozens of rounds into his head, and he's still he's still good to go. So I'm not sure what's going on. Rifle doesn't seem like it does much. He definitely responds to the shotgun. You can see little splats of blood coming off of him when I hit him, so it has to be doing something to him. At least the shotgun does. It looks like I might be out or close to out with shotgun slugs. I'm not seeing any blood with the rifle rounds. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. And we got that polar bear that's like 100 yards away. Hey man, I'm just trying to do the scientists' bidding. They're the ones that sent me here to kill this mammoth. Be mad at the scientists, yo. They're the ones making him go extinct. You guys see that some new company, I didn't look into it really, probably from China, wants to resurrect the woolly mammoth? Again, I haven't had a chance to look into the science. I'm not sure how they plan on accomplishing that. Obviously with DNA somehow, but Jurassic Park style. It's been raising a bunch of ethical questions. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool to see a woolly mammoth, not gonna lie. I'd rather they resurrect the T-Rex. That'd be sweet. So this is just a time lapse of me just totally filling this mammoth with bone arrows, and he's still standing. If you look closely, you can see he has a bunch of arrows sticking out of his head. You have to look really closely though. Yeah, again, I don't know the science behind how they do it. I'd imagine it'd probably be similar to how they do what they did with the buffalo. The buffalo were becoming extinct, but they saved the species by mixing the DNA with like cows. I don't think it was bulls. I think it was cows. So a lot of the American buffalo aren't actually purebred buffalo. If you want to breed them, you actually can't breed buffalo. I think the government controls most of them. You can only breed like cow-buffalo hybrids. So this is the other forest biome, and it looks like it's pretty close to the other desert biome. Yeah, I don't think we can go in here very far, so I'm just trying to stick to the outskirts of it. I don't think this area is going to be unlockable until the game actually releases in November. So yeah, I'd imagine they probably, again, you'd have to tell me because sounds like you guys might have read the article, but just off the top of my head, maybe they'd have to mix the mammoth DNA with an elephant DNA or something. So what I'm doing now is I'm not giving up on taking down this mammoth, but at the same time I'm thinking he might be glitchy, and Because I've pumped so many rounds into this thing, and it's still not going down. So I'm wondering if it's even possible for me to kill him at this point. So I decided to go ahead and try to make some more arrows, some stone arrows really quick. Not even thinking that stone arrows can affect this thing at all. But time ends up proving me to be right here in a second. Yeah, so on the ethics or the morality of cloning or bringing extinct animals back from extinction, I haven't really thought too hard about it because this is still relatively new technology, although we've been able to clone animals for a while now. I've just never really given it much thought. All I really know off the top of my head is that Genesis, I'm a Christian, so Genesis says we should be good stewards of the earth, which includes things like don't pollute, don't throw your McDonald's trash on the ground, take care of the animals, don't over harvest them, don't kill all the buffalo kind of thing. I'd have to look more into the ethics of actually cloning extinct animals or cloning your dead dog. But the thing is, like, all cloning is basically making a twin, an identical twin. Identical twins are born all the time. They're not the same people. They're two different people if it comes to human twins. So if you clone, say, your dead dog, it's not going to be your dog that you knew. It's going to be like his brother, basically. On its face, that's what cloning is. So I don't know the ethics behind it, whether you're making a... I think making a person in a petri dish like that would probably be unethical. Just saying. But as far as maybe, hey, you're just trying to bring back an extinct animal because humans did... Hey, we killed it. How about that?
Make sure to skin it quick, because you ain't gonna get another chance at this.
So again, I lost my knife due to a glitch, my steel knife, and now it's telling me with that red icon, the knife icon, that I need a better knife to skin this thing. So my stone knife that I crafted isn't gonna do. So now I'm trying to use my steel pickaxe to maybe as a substitute, but again, it's not a knife. Trying to chop that tusk off. I'm also curious about Israel's attempt to lab-grown beef tissue. So they're gonna make beef steaks in the lab for us. Now here's the thing about that, like, do you want to consume something that is grown in the lab? Like, even that would have DNA, and anything you consume, put in your body, whether you're eating it or getting it injected like the COVID vaccine, with the COVID vaccine, it messes with your mRNA, your messenger RNA, but anything you put in your body is going to be broken down by your digestive system, and then those proteins, those molecules, what have you, are then transported to your cells, and your cells use them to build your proteins that make up your organelles and stuff. So it literally becomes part of you. Do you want some beef steak made in the lab to become part of your DNA? Like, I think that's a personal question. If they want to do it, I think maybe that should be up to them, as long as they're doing it in a morally ethical way, and they're not like. Have you ever seen the movie The Island? Basically, I won't ruin the movie for you, but the plot is you have these human clones that are on this island that are used for basically organ harvesting. As long as they're not doing it that way, even with animals, yeah. I mean, we already do that for like lab animals. We clone mice and stuff, or we specifically breed mice so we can have lab rats, you know. So in a way, we're already doing it, and that's its own ethical dilemma right there. So I ended up making this workbench, but I didn't really use it. I was thinking maybe I could make my steel knife really quick, but the woolly mammoth despawns after like 10 minutes after you kill it, so there is no point. So I'm returning back empty-handed, but at least I got to experience the kill, right? I didn't harvest its body for food. It was sport hunting. I'm so ashamed. We hunted for sport, an extinct animal on an alien planet. So here's just a little time lapse of my journey all the way back through instead of you guys having to watch this all over again. Believe it or not, I got back out of the polar region with little trouble despite not having any more ammo left, just some stone arrows. I think we leave out through a... Yeah, I think this is a different region, maybe, of the forest region that we came out of. I think we're going into a different region. That's closer to our pod. Now we're just trying to get back to the pod so we can go back to the space station, which we actually can't see until the game releases in November. But say I got the mammoth tusk. And I managed to take it back to my pod and take it back with me to the space station, I would be given a reward for it. My guess is, since this is kind of a harder mission, it would be a substantial reward, where like maybe you get like a dirt bike or something. It's just an example. You'd have to look at the game's minimum requirements on Steam. If you just look up this game on Steam, it's Icarus. I don't remember what the minimum specs are, but yeah, like Waco's saying, I have a 2080 Ti and a 3900X, I believe, if I remember right. And I can run it on ultra settings as long as I'm not recording or streaming. Right now, I'm recording, and I'm running it on mostly high settings. I expect by the time it releases in November, they'll have most of the game at least smoothed out. Just trying to build a quick shelter so we can get through this storm so I can get back to the shuttle or the pod. Time lapse. knocked down some trees, so it was a pretty bad storm. I ditched all the stuff I didn't really need. Ended up getting back to the cabin just to check it out, see if it was still standing. Obviously it is, barely. My rain collector was still standing. Definitely looks like it was raped by storms, though, for sure. It's pretty awesome. I love it. Looks like all my benches survived so far, though. Anyway, just a little pit stop on our way back to the pod. Yes, there is a carry weight limit, but you can carry more weight if you unlock certain talents. I'm hoping, and I think they are planning on implementing backpacks into the game eventually, so you'll carry less weight on your person, but if you craft a backpack, you'll be able to carry more. I hope they do it that way, kind of like DayZ. I've actually never played Minecraft, but as addicting I hear that it is, I'm kind of afraid to. So that's it for this one, guys. I'm going to go enjoy my Saturday. Thanks for watching. It was good hanging out with you guys. But we'll be back for more gameplay next weekend when we're going to go into the desert. Okay. Until that time, Godspeed.